Unit 1, The Financial System. Lecture 2, Introduction to the Financial System, Part B. A little more detail on lenders and borrowers. They are both non-financial entities, and they are referred to as surplus and deficit economic units. Surplus associated with abundance. So lenders who have excess funds are surplus economic units. Borrowers, they're in need of funds, referred to as deficit economic units. We're now looking at who the lenders and borrowers are. There are four major categories of lenders and borrowers: households, businesses, governments, and foreign entities. In South Africa, households also include private, charitable, religious, and non-profit bodies, as well as unincorporated businesses. In looking at direct and indirect financing, direct financing, as mentioned before, the intermediary works as a conduit, earning a commission, and their role is to match lenders whose requirements in terms of risk, return, and liquidity exactly match borrowers' needs in terms of costs and term to maturity, allowing for that the process or the deal will take place. In terms of indirect financing, the intermediary acts as a market maker. A simple example of this, I suppose, is a bank. A bank receives funds in the form of deposits from savers or lenders to whom they pay an interest. They then on-lend those surplus funds or reinvest those funds in home loans, car loans, personal loans, for which they charge an interest rate. And the difference between what they pay the depositors and what they receive from borrowers is a margin that they earn. And that's an example of indirect investing. This slide offers us a rather more simplified version of how the financial system works when we're looking at indirect and direct financing and lenders and borrowers, intermediaries in the financial markets. So financial intermediaries that are common to most countries and some with whom you may already have interacted or will interact with in the future include banks. Deposit financial intermediaries are referred to. They accept deposit from lenders and on-lend the funds to borrowers. They tend to generate their fee in the form of a margin between the interest paid on deposits and the interest that they charge to borrowers. Then you have non-deposit financial intermediaries, and they include insurers, pension and provident funds. They can be long-term insurers, short-term insurers. They receive contractual savings from households, and they reinvest the fund mainly in shares and other assets. They perform the function, here in this case insurers, perform the function of risk diversification by allowing households and firms to distribute the risks among a large population. So they will pool them together, thereby reducing the risk. With collective investment schemes, all of us, most of us I should say, would have come into contact with them, or at least would be familiar with them, in the form of unit trusts. Okay? They're also called portfolio intermediaries. They pool the funds of small investors and reinvest the funds in shares, bonds, and other financial assets. And they allocate units to investors. So you buy units in a portfolio, and the pooling of the funds allows for investment in a diversified portfolio. In concluding the first lecture of the financial system, we end by looking at the economic functions of financial intermediaries. Some of these functions we've talked about in some detail during the course of this lecture, others we've mentioned in passing. All of these, though, are crucial in ensuring that the financial system operates effectively and efficiently.